Right now, I'm challenging myself to see if I can make 128 Regulation H teams that are each different from one another over the course of 128 days. Why 128, you might ask? At the end of the 128 days, we're going to do something special where we battle every team against each other in a single elimination bracket to see which team emerges on top. There will be some competitively strong teams, there will be some gimmick teams, and there will be some probably a good number of goofs and gaffs in there, so if you want to follow through to the end, subscribe so that you can keep up with each day. But without further ado, let's move on to day 46. Alright everybody, welcome back to another video, and in today's video, we are going to be answering the question, are cats viable in Regulation H? And the answer is yes. I mean, I don't know why anybody would even ask the question to begin with. I mean, have you played this game before? But today we're going to be looking at the viability of all specific cats. Well, actually not all of them. There's like Pyroar and some other kind of niche picks that got left out on this team, unfortunately, that we might come back to at some point. But these are the most viable cats, at least in my opinion. So starting off with our first cat, we have Luxray, and Luxray is kind of nice because it has the Guts ability, and there's a lot of Pokemon in the format that have Guts, like the Ursaluna or the Conkeldurr, but Luxray is kind of different than all those ones because Luxray is actually a decently fast Pokemon, and since we're max speed investment, we're not outspeeding a lot of things in the format, but we're outspeeding a pretty decent number of them, and with the speed control that we have on this team, we'll be outspeeding most of them. But our Luxray is going to be running Wild Charge, as that is its strongest physical electric type move, other than like Super Soul Slam. But I also opted to go for the Terra Flying Terra Blast on this Luxray, and flying is obviously useful because you get to dodge ground type moves, and since we're Flame Orb, if we get off that Protect, it means that we have a pretty good damaging move into opposing Amoonguss. As well as we also have defensive options in just the substitute. If we're feeling kind of risky, we can get out the substitute, and then Luxray is safe for a turn. And again, we have Protect just to give us that one super guaranteed turn of activating our Flame Orb. Next up, we got Alolan Persian, and Alolan Persian is pretty funky because I think it's the only Pokemon in the game right now that has the ability Fur Coat, and Fur Coat just gives you a flat defense double, which is pretty nice, but our Persian is going to be using its speed to be faster than pretty much everything in the format. I mean, 183 speed being multiplied by 1.5 is nothing to scoff at. Like, you can outspeed Pokemon even while they're in Tailwind if they're below 120 speed. And our Persian is going to be using supporting moves like Snarl in order to lower the special attack of both the opposing Pokemon. We have Knock Off for getting rid of items, and we also have the Icy Wind, which is definitely a move that not a lot of people look at Alolan Persian and think Icy Wind. But Icy Wind is nice for the speed control, and we also have the ability to switcheroo away our Choice Scarf if we want to try and break a Pokemon that really doesn't value using the Choice Scarf. Next up, we got Espeon, and Espeon is going to be a choice spec set with coverage moves in our Stab Psychic. We have Alluring Voice, which is good single target fairy type damage, and it makes things kind of regret trying to set up in front of Espeon. And we also have the Shadow Ball on Espeon, and I decided to go for the Terra Fighting Terra Blast just because a lot of people will go Terra Steel in front of Espeon, not expecting Espeon to have something to hit it, and then that Terra Fighting Terra Blast special attack is just so good into so many Pokemon. And lastly on Espeon, we're going to be using the Magic Bounce ability just to bounce back any annoying status moves that get thrown its way. Next up, we got Meowstic here, and Meowstic is a pretty nice prankster Pokemon. It doesn't have some of the advantages of other pranksters, like being a dark type, unless we terrestrialize it into dark, so we can get taunted by other pranksters, but we have the Light Clay and the dual screens option in order to support the team, and we have speed control in the form of Thunder Wave, and we can also perhaps get a Paraturn, which would be super clutch with Meowstic, and we have the Helping Hand for supporting the Pokemon that's next to Meowstic in case they need to do a little bit more damage. Next up here, we got Incineroar, and this Incineroar is mostly just a physical offense Incineroar. Its physical offense Incineroar has been picking up since Baltimore, and I didn't really care about figuring out specific EVs for the Incineroar. We just went full HP, full attack, and we're going full offense moves here in the Fake Out, which, I mean, every Incineroar should have. The Flare Blitz option, because that full attack Flare Blitz can really catch people off guard. We also have the Throat Chop to stop people from using Sound type moves, and we do have a substitute user on this team, so it's kind of nice to use Incineroar to stop Sound type moves from going past the substitute. And we have the U-turn for pivoting, and also bug damage is kind of nice to have. And of course, on Incineroar, we're going to be using the Intimidate ability, because that's the main reason that you're running Incineroar, and we're Terra Grass so that we're not getting put to sleep by Spore, but Grass also gives us some nice resistances. And lastly, we have the newest cat, I believe, Meowscarada, and Meowscarada is going to be running not Protean, but actually Overgrow here, as we're hoping that the opponent will proc our Focus Sash in some way, so that we get low enough health to activate Overgrow, and then we get a 1.5 times boost on our Flower Trick, which is a 70 base power move, but always guarantees a critical hit, and does not matter about accuracy checks, and we also have good stab damage in the form of our Knockoff, and the Sucker Punch for a little bit of priority. And then I just went Terra Grass on Meowscarada since we're Overgrow, but you could definitely slot in like Stellar Terra on this Meowscarada if you really wanted to apply it to some other teams. Stellar Terra can also fit. But yeah, that's the basis of the team. Let's get into some battles. Alright, so here we have a Slaking team, but they have some kind of rain components, but not really rain components, and just the fact that they have both Basculegion and Palafin, which could trip us up a little bit here. But we get Luxray and Persian in, which deals with most of what they could lead, as they lead Grafai and Espathra, and we full on just get the critical hit into Espathra in order to take it out in one knockoff, which I'm not quite sure what Espathra would have gone for there, but I guess it could have gone for like a Hypnosis, which has the chance to miss, but it could also mess us up a little bit if that lands. We get the substitute off with Luxray, and they actually reveal that they are not Prankster on the Grafai because they were able to doodle Persian, and Persian is a dark type, so that's not how that works. But we get the substitute up with the Luxray, and we have our Guts, so we're pretty big chilling as I just decide to knock off the Basculegion, and then we wild charge into Basculegion because Luxray is faster than it, and Grafai is taunted Luxray, which means we can't protect with Luxray, but we get to knock off Slaking here to get rid of its clear amulet, and they doodle the Fur Coat onto Slaking, and they reveal Drake Punch on Persian, but Persian takes it pretty good because we're Fur Coat, and the Slaking is now also Fur Coat, which is a bit of a problem that I wasn't really expecting. I bring in Incineroar in order to intimidate both, but they actually have the Swagger into Slaking, which is a little risky, and they show the risk because they actually hit themselves in confusion. Side Swagger is a bit of a crazy strategy, but it's not super consistent, but they're still going for that side Swagger while they're still confused, and I just decided to wild charge down into Grafai in order to make sure that they don't get any more Swagger boost, and the wild charge recoil is going to take out Luxray, as now Slaking decides to reveal Terra Ghost and then Drain Punches into Persian, and because of the attack boost this time they get to pick up KO into Persian, and the Flare Blitz does decent damage into Slaking, as now we can bring in Espeon, and they enter confusion and they get the Sucker Punch into Espeon, which is kind of what they would have needed to do to KO it, but because we have Throat Chop on Incineroar, we can handle the Slaking. Because since we got the speed drop on the Slaking, Espeon would have 100% been able to take it out there, which is a Shadow Ball, but here we have Rain, but they also have Rotom-Mow and like regular Braviary, and regular Braviary usually carries Defiant, which means that we really can't bring Incineroar into anything this game, especially since the one Pokemon that we have like a good matchup against would be like Metagross, but that's Clear Body, so we really can't intimidate that down anyways. So we just decided to lead Meowstic and Meowscarada here as they lead Braviary and Metagross, and this lead's pretty good for us, as I'm willing to just go for the Sucker Punch into Metagross here to get a good amount of damage into it, and they break into Meowscarada in order to break our Sash, as Braviary got the Tailwind, and I want to preserve Meowscarada here for a pretty long time, as the Sucker Punch is pretty handy. So we're just going to protect and we're going to start making things slow, but they actually have Fake Out on Ludicolo, which I really wasn't accounting for, but since we lost Meowscarada, it's not too much of a big deal. We did ship into Metagross after all. But now we're going to start getting up our screens with Meowscarada, and we haven't even set up the light screen yet, and the opponent is already struggling to do damage into Meowstic, which is good. And the opponent gets in Politoed, and we just wild charge into Braviary. Now that their Tailwind has ended, they won't be able to set that back up again, which means the fastest thing that they have now is Ludicolo, and Metagross is going to rock the Terra Steel as we just wild charge into Politoed in order to get rid of it, and Metagross is able to go for the Brick Break again, which is going to break both of the screens that we were busy setting up, which was not something that I thought about, but I mean, it happened. But since both of the Pokemon on the field are currently paralyzed, we have a pretty safe Terra fighting Terra Blast into Metagross here in order to just get rid of it. And since Metagross is gone, they can't break our late screen, which means that Espeon is super safe to take down Ludicolo here. Here we have a double Grass, double Fire, double Normal team. I wasn't quite sure what this team was going to be doing whenever I first saw it, but I decided to lead Alolan Persian Meowscarada because I figured that since they have Fergaref, they might be trying to do Trick Room things, but they actually lead two of their fire types first, which is not so good for us. Kind of wish that I led Espeon here and just went for that Terra fighting, but
Blaziken is getting set up, which is a little bit nerve-wracking, not gonna lie. We get to Icy Wind into Incineroar, at least to lower its speed, and we don't get the Psychic here, but they Parting Shot into Espeon, but that causes us to Magic Bounce back at the Parting Shot, and Espeon is going to be the one that's forced out. So we get the Intimidate down into both Pokemon, but we kind of need Espeon to hit Blaziken here. And now we don't have that, as Blaziken's going for another Sword Stance, and we can get another Speed Drop into it. We do miss Amoonguss, which is kind of annoying, because it might be able to outspeed Incineroar if it's like Turbo Shroom. But we do good Flare Blitz damage into Blaziken to the point where I'm not too worried about it. But Blaziken actually just Baton Passes into Mousehold, as we get the Icy Wind Speed Drop into both. And Flare Blitz is going to be able to take out Amoonguss. Super nice here since we're max attack. And I have to go back into Blaziken, and we get the Icy Wind Speed Drop on Mousehold to get rid of those speed boosts that it got from Blaziken. And they missed the Pop Bomb here, which is rather unfortunate for them, but the Flare Blitz is going to be able to take out Mousehold. And even if they did manage to take out Incineroar there, I think we would still be fine because of the Pokemon that we have in the back. But it is kind of funny that the cat dodged the move from the mouse that they needed to land that move, even begin to get better footing in this game, and the cat beat the mouse. And now they bring back an Incineroar, so they get down another Intimidate, but I'm okay with just Icy Winding into both opponents at this point to kind of mitigate their speed, as they finally decide to take down Persian with a Brick Break, and their Speed Boost makes Blaziken neutral speed again, but Blaziken can be faster than Espeon, and I really thought they would protect Blaziken this turn, so I just decided to take out Incineroar with the Terra Fighting Terra Blast, and they just use Blaziken to take out our Incineroar. But now we have Meowscarada, who has the Focus Sash, so we always get off one attack. Even if this Terra Fighting Terra Blast wasn't KOing the Blaziken from Espeon, we would get the Flower Trick into. So here we have quite a mix of mons that we don't normally get to see. They have like Klefki as their prankster, which kind of matches my Meowstic as my prankster. But they also have the Raichu, which negates their speed control, and Meowstic's Thunder Wave, because they're probably a Lightning Rod. They also have the Vivillon, which can put a lot of things to sleep on the team, also providing Friend Guard for everything else. And they're probably Trick Room on this team, since they have Armarouge, even though they are using some speedier components. Armarouge Trick Room is by no means out of the realm of possibility on this team, as they decide to start Meowscarada Armarouge, which I like because I led Meowstic and Incineroar, and they immediately Terra Grass their Armarouge, which is pretty good for us, I think, as the U-turn out with the Meowscarada, but we also U-turn out with Incineroar, and we get Espeon in. Espeon doesn't take too much damage from the Scorching Sands, thankfully, and I really didn't want Vivillon to be friend guarding anything too much, so we're just going to go for the Helping Hand Psychic and do it in order to get rid of it. But now they bring back in Meowscarada, which means that they can go for Sucker Punch, and I was hoping to catch that from Incineroar, but they just decided to U-turn, which is also acceptable there. I think we lived it with our Reflect, but now we have both of our screens, so we can take a lot of damage there, as we saw. The Hydro Pump and the Scorching Sands did more than I expected, but we can deal good Helping Hand damage into the Armarouge, and I decided to swap in Meowscarada here, seeing that there's really not much that Incineroar could do there, but they do unfortunately get the Scorching Sands burn onto Meowscarada while also critting us. But that makes up for it by the Hydro Pump miss, which probably wouldn't do too much. And we at least get the Helping Hand Sucker into the Armarouge in order to get rid of it, as they finally take out Meowscarada. But now we have Incineroar in the position where we can just Terra Grass so that the Hydro Pump never KOs us. And we can get the U-turn into Meowscarada in order to take it out. And we get to swap back into Espeon for whenever the Trick Room ends. And we get good damage with our Flower Trick into the Water type. And the Psychic is going to wrap the game pretty nicely here. And lastly, we have a bit of a strange team here, as they do have the Torkoal, Scovillain, and Dragapult, which leads to me believe that they wanted to do spicy extract things. I'm really not quite sure. I mean, the other components are just like Trick Room and maybe Hitmonlee for trying to get up the Trick Room. So I wasn't quite sure what I wanted to lead, so I just led Meowstic and Persian, since that would give us good anti-Trick Room things, but they started Scovillain and Torkoal just protects turn 1, and I Thunder Wave and Scovillain because I really don't want it to be too fast, and we just get the Snarl in case they were going to attack with special attacks. But the Scovillain is actually Eject Pack, so it gets Eject Packed out into Dragapult, which means that we're kind of out of cycle here, because I really want Persian to knock off the Dragapult. But they Terra Flying their Dragapult right away for... I mean, I guess they aren't weak to the Snarl anymore, but they get Dragon Darts, and We lowered the Torkoal special attack, and we have light screen up, so we can live the eruption this turn. And I just go ahead and I paralyze the Dragapult and get another Snarl down with Persian, because I kind of wanted to just take the double KO this turn so I could get in my 2 Pokemon that I have in the back. As Torkoal fails the Heat Wave because there's no Pokemon on the field. But now we get in Luxray and Meowscarada with the light screen up. And I double protect just because I want to stall out one more turn of Sun. Because if I can KO Torkoal on this turn, it means that they can't bring the Sun back for anything else on the team. And so we knock off and we Wild Charge into the Torkoal, and I kind of wanted Dragapult to take a Paraturn, and thankfully it does, which it was not necessary, but it does help things along a little bit here, as we can knock off the Scovillain, and we can Wild Charge into Dragapult in order to get rid of it, and Scovillain takes its own Paraturn there, which super ensures the game, as even if Scovillain did attack into Luxray, it's probably a special attacker, so I would be willing to bet it doesn't do too much damage. And if they did attack it in Meowscarada, I would just proc Meowscarada's Focus Sash. So no matter what Pokemon they have left in the back here, since they used their Terra on the Dragapult, I feel like these 2 Pokemon could definitely handle it. But yeah, that was the Cat team. I feel like you do need a lot of surprise elements on this team, especially more so on Persian, because Persian is the Choice Scarf. And Luxray's move pool is pretty big, however, it was kind of hard to use other moves. So while every cat may not be viable, perhaps it's better that it may stay that way. But thank you guys so much for watching. If you liked it, maybe consider leaving a like on the video, and even consider subscribing, because both of those things will help me out an absolute ton. And I will see you in the next one. Thank you.